Welcome, everyone. Um, I will share my screen and share a PowerPoint with you, and we'll go over it, and uh, I'll start doing it. Okay. We're going to be talking about relationships in human design readings. And there are a number of pillars, as I call them, for what you want to look for in relationships. There's different types, and they communicate differently and have different timing. There's In a relationship, you want to make sure that you have aligned values because those values will enhance the relationship if they're aligned, or if they're not aligned, they may create some conflicts for you. Also, there are emotional reactions, and I will show you where they are in the body map and also talk a little bit about the portal in the human design body graph that is responsible for transforming relationship reactions. And you do want to be aware of the vulnerabilities of your partner. As a human design practitioner, um, you are working with relationships and in a relationship yourself. So you want to know what works for you and you want to know what works for the partner. If you're frustrated trying to figure out how to help couples with human design, the simple tools I'm going to show you will transform what you're doing and transform relationships. And also, I'm going to give you some simple communication tools that are very specific for what issues a relationship may have. Um, Let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm talking to you about relationships. Um, I've been a psychologist and a clinician for over 50 years. And in 1976, I wrote my first book called Marriage in Trouble, A Time of Decision. Uh, I wrote it because there were no books that talked about how to decide if a relationship was viable or not. So I was working in my practice with relationships, and I was trained as a Jungian analyst and had a PhD from University of Chicago. And I didn't realize at the time, but my PhD from the Department of Comparative Human Development was actually covering sociology, anthropology, biology, and psychology, or as I talk about it now, the four worlds. Um, in 1999, I was asked by Ra Uru to validate human design. He asked my husband and myself because my husband Marvin is a medical doctor, and Ra wanted us to work primarily as the professionals in the field. And he wanted us to validate both clinically, asked Marvin to validate in his medical practice, asked me to validate in my psychological practice, and to do the statistics, which I did. And there were some things I was able to validate 100% like type. And I found five, not four types. So, based on my statistical and clinical research on more than 45,000 cases, I know what works in human design, and I know also what is not valid and doesn't really have any significant validity to it. Um, since I worked with Ra, we worked together from 1999 till about 2003. And I've actually just released the book that Ra and I did together in a series of seminars, and it's called the Triple Design Matrix. It's about the dream design and how the matrices come together. I've written 8 bestsellers on human design, noble energy maps, and Reiki healing. And you can get those at Amazon or Apple. And you're in this webinar because you're likely skilled as a practitioner reading human design charts. I am going to help you know what to look for and how to help couples so you can take your practice to a whole other level. When you base your readings on the science of what works in human design, you know that you're guiding your clients in grounded communication principles and things that are psychologically sound. Learning what works in design and what can be misleading is part of what it's important for you to learn. And I'll make you a free offer at the end of the webinar. Whoops. Okay. The human design chart shows how you function in the mental waking world. That's the world that you live in every single day. And it is the world that you've learned how to behave in. It's known as socialization. And as you're growing up, you learn what's acceptable in your culture and what's not acceptable. And also in relationships, communication happens at many different levels of awareness. So you can't, from a human design chart, really predict how somebody's going to react. But if you understand the inner dynamics of a relationship chart, then you can recognize how you can transform things that trigger your partner or things that trigger other people. And you can shift how you respond in order to help the relationship along. Many perceptions and feelings in a relationship are beneath the surface. So what I'm going to be showing you are some ways that you can figure out what might be going on in a relationship, and you can put those into your reports and help other people see what they're doing. Generally, I would encourage you to not live by design. Trust your inner feelings and your intuition before you trust what the design is telling you. So always be empowered within yourself to know what you know when you know it and to trust that knowing. In design, I have validated statistically that we have 5 types. There's the manifester, someone who has a fuel or motor center that gets them in some way connected to the throat. There's the manifesting generator, who is someone who has the manifesting channels, but also has the sacral center activated. The generator has an activated sacral center. Projector has no definition to the throat from a motor or a fuel, and does not have the sacral center activated. The projector in traditional human design is told that they need to wait to be recognized. I don't talk about it that way. I see the projector as someone who knows what's right for them and who waits to know what's right and recognize within themselves what is aligned with them and what they might want to engage in. The reflector has completely open centers. They're not broken. And let me remind all of you that at birth, you are in a 64 gate human design matrix. That design is active. All of the gates, all of the channels, all of the centers turn on and turn off at some points during the course of a month. So everything is there. It's just a question of what is accentuated and impacted by the transiting planets as you're developing. And those may be a predisposition on your part to recognize that energy. What I'm going to be talking about in more detail is how types work together, how you can recognize individual decision making and the timing of that. I was able, in my work on 45,000 cases, to validate that there are single definition types, split definitions, triple splits, quadruple splits. And these different formats in a human design chart tell a lot about how a person's energy is used and how you can relate to them. There are different ways channels connect, and that's where I'm going to focus because that's where your reports will need to focus. They need to focus on how a couple comes together with the different channels and how they shift the designs or don't shift the designs. There's electromagnetic, compromise, dominance, and friendship channels, and we'll be talking about how they interact. And there's also hanging gates in the attraction and repulsion of how people relate to each other. Type impacts timing and how we navigate it. The ways to determine your partner's timing are type, channels, and centers. How your partner is vulnerable is determined by open centers and emotional definition. So we're going to go over those things, and I'm going to share with you some charts as well as show you the different kinds of channels. So I picked the channel 659 to illustrate the electromagnetic connection. Now, in an electromagnetic connection, one person has one gate and the other person has the other gate. So a complete channel is formed, each one of them giving part. So they likely have a strong chemistry, a strong attraction, because as we know, things will attract to each other. In this channel, 659, the person with the gate 6 may be emotionally reactive. The solar plexus is a center which has the capacity for people to get emotional and be reactive. Now, the solar plexus, interestingly enough, only occurs in the mental world and the physical biological world. So we know that emotional reactions happen beneath the level of consciousness. And when people get emotional, they may speak out of turn. They may act. The 12-22, the 36-35 go from the solar plexus to the throat. That makes a manifestor channel. So in a partner, be aware if they have the sixth gate, they may be emotionally reactive. If you have the sixth gate, you may be emotionally reactive. The 59th hexagram, the 59th gate, can transform that emotional reaction. In the Triple Design Matrix book, this book, this is my proof copy, that's why it has this. But the Triple Design Matrix book is a book that I wrote with Ra, and we did some seminars on the dream design, and we talked in that book in the year 2000 about portal gates. The 59th hexagram gate is a portal, and it's a portal to the sacral center. So if you're in a relationship and there's an electromagnetic connection between the 6 and the 59, the person with the 59 is going to be the person responsible for helping the partner transform emotional reactions. And the communication you want to use in an instance such as this is something called clean language. Clean language is communication that has no auditory, no visual, and no kinesthetic cues. Questions such as, what would you like to have happen? I have told people that the quickest way to stop an argument, if you're in an argument with your partner, or with anyone for that matter, is to say, given all of this, what would you like to have happen now? That will stop any argument dead in its tracks. In working on reports, I would recommend that you keep in mind that someone with the gate 59 is able to transform the energy of someone with gate 6. Those kinds of nuances are pretty important for you to learn in empowering couples to communicate and to communicate effectively. The next kind of connection between two people would be a compromised connection. Now, in a compromised connection, one person has the whole defined channel, and the other person has one gate of that channel. So I picked a complicated channel. I picked the 3410, and I picked it specifically because when I see someone who has the 3410, I always say, you march to your own drum. The sacral center goes, uh-huh, uh-uh. And the self center says, this is right for me. This is the right role for me. This is the right thing for me to be doing. So when you have a person with the 3410, they're going to be pretty strong in what they know they want. If they're with someone who has one of those gates, maybe they have the 10, maybe they have the 34. You need to listen. The person with the 1034 needs to listen to the person with either the 34 or the 10 to see what that person is thinking and feeling, and to, as a partner, be in communication rather than bulldozing that person in some way. The 34th gate has a strong energy, and the 10th gate has some self-direction and wants to play a role. So in this instance, I recommend rather strongly that you use a communication tool called active listening. Active listening is a statement. The person with the full channel, in this instance, needs to have the consciousness to say to the partner, I sense that you're feeling X about whatever it is. And then listening. Listen, listen, listen. And then you can, as a couple, come together and find a solution that both of you can feel comfortable living with. When you have a compromise connection or an electromagnetic connection, you want to balance the perspectives of both people. And that's true in any relationship. You are always going to be asking the other person for their input before you take action. I also would like, and I put these images in because I want you to look at the hexagrams. In this instance, the 34 is all Sagittarian. And look at the hexagram, all young on the bottom, and then it's an Aries, red is Aries. So it's heaven on the bottom and thunder on the top. That means, if you think about it, that that person is going to ground themselves in something that they know that is right for them. And then they're going to open themselves up to their in the moment experience. And they're going to be receptive to what's coming from gate 10. And notice that gate 10 has all the yang on the top. So it's saying to you, the person with the 34 has a sense for what's right for them. The person with the 10 has a sense of what's right for them. And then they have to balance. And the person with the 10 has to take on a role that's right for that person. And the person with the 34 wants to take action or do something that is right for them. So they need to balance. That's why it's called compromise. In a dominance channel, and I picked the 731. Again, look at the hexagrams. Look at the colors. All of my work is color-coded by the astrological sign. I did that because I'm an astrologer, and astrology is one of the components in the human design chart. So I highly recommend that if you don't know astrology, you get a little bit of knowledge there. I do have two books, Cosmic Secrets and Astrology Essentials, that are teaching the astrological in a way you can use it for human design. And the astrology is written in the way I wished somebody had written a book for me when I was learning astrology. In the dominance connection, one person has the whole defined channel, and the other person doesn't have any of it. So the person with the defined channel will likely feel empowered by that channel, and the other person may not feel connected to that energy at all. So I picked the 731 as an illustration for you because it's such a strong channel. We call it the channel of leadership. So if one person has the whole channel of leadership and the other person doesn't have any of it, the person without even a gate, 31 or 7, may feel bulldozed if the person with the 731 doesn't pay attention, doesn't communicate, doesn't listen. So look at gate 7 coming out of the self center. It's a yin line, a yang line, a yin line, and then all yin. That person wants to take in what the followers are going to need. But that person also has strong views on what leadership in a specific situation might be. The person with the 30 and the 31 is also taking input from the 7. So the person with the 731 needs to encourage the person who has no part of that channel to express what they want, what their perceptions are. And the person with the 731, the dominance, needs to listen so that the leadership role that that person takes on is the role that's appropriate for the others who are following. Communication, listening, and mirroring, which I'll talk about in the next channel, is important communication skills. Now we have the friendship channel, connection. The friendship connection, both people have both gates, the whole channel. And it provides them with a sense of harmony and connection. Hopefully, their perception is aligned. They are in sync. And here's where we come into the issue of values. So often when I'm working with couples, I ask them to assess if their values are aligned. And in your relationship reports, that would be a pretty important paragraph to ask people to assess the values that they're aligned with in their relationship. A good exercise to take them into. Both people with the 5734 are going to be intuitive, and they're going to have instincts and feel that they want their responses to align with their intuitive sense of what's right for them. So they may have different viewpoints. What I recommend for two people with the same channel is that they use the skill of mirroring. Mirroring is a way of listening where you're not giving any feedback to each other. You're just taking turns saying what you know and what you perceive. Now, notice again the hexagrams and their trigrams. The 57 is wind over wind. Libra. The 57 wants balance, it wants harmony, and it wants to be very intuitive. It loves getting the information and knowing what it knows when you know it. The 34 has strong young and then thunder above, as we said before. It's Sagittarius, a fire sign and an air sign. What happens to fire when there's a breeze on it? It gets bigger and it gets stronger. So if both of you have this channel and one of you has a strong intuition and wants to take action, and the other of you doesn't have the strong intuition, you need to listen to what you're each perceiving before you come together in alignment and make a decision that's right for both of you. Here's some charts that I put together. This is Charles and Katie. Charles is my son, Katie's my daughter-in-law. I have their permission to use their charts. And they're interesting charts because they demonstrate the compromise, the electromagnetic, the hanging gates, and the dominance. In Charles's chart, what do you notice? I notice right off the bat that he has the 214. Now, the 214, I'm sure you all know what the 214 is, the keeper of the keys, the direction of the self. Very strong. These central channels that go straight up the spine, they are called the Satsuma, and they are the channel through which the Kundalini energy moves up the spine and we ascend into consciousness. So looking at Charles's chart, he has some strong root gates and then the 214, and he also has the 29. He also has the 5720. And he has the 5125. Now, the 5125 with Chiron, I always use Chiron. Why? Chiron was discovered in 1783 and ignored. It was an asteroid, it was ignored. It was rediscovered astrologically in 1977. And anyone born in the 20th century had the energy of the asteroid Chiron active in their design. I use Chiron because I'm an astrologer and I studied Magi astrology. The Magi astrology people believe that Chiron shows the greatest gifts that a person has. And also, I read it along with the North and South Node as showing life purpose and life mission, and also where people tune in to other people. So here, notice that Charles's Chiron is in the 25th hexagram, and he has the 214, the 5720. Katie, on the other hand, so Charles is a generator. Katie is a manifesting generator, but she is a split definition, as is Charles. So Katie has the 4521 with Chiron in the 21. When I see 4521 activated, I know that breathing is extremely important for that person. Why? The 4521 is the only channel in the whole body graph that goes directly from the throat to the heart itself. Therefore, it's the way we take in the life-giving oxygen that then circulates through the body. So when I see someone with 4521, I always say to them, if you notice that you're balanced, notice your breathing. And then in the course of your day, if you notice that your breathing gets tight, something stressed you out. Someone with the 4521 is in a perfect position to use their breathing as the indicator of balance and alignment. In Katie, she also has the 3410. I mentioned when we were doing the the compromise, that the 3410 is a channel of marching to your own drum. So it's interesting to look at Charles and Katie because Katie is a manifesting generator. Charles is a generator. They are both split definitions, but when we put them together in composite, whoa, we have a very strong manifesting generator chart with quite a few electromagnetic gates, 64 to 47. So they may be thinking about similar things and each coming up with the other information that that person needs. They together have the 4323. So they're thinking about things better together than either one would think if they were apart. Notice the Chiron in 17. 17 is a portal gate to the spiritual world, the dream design. They love animals. The 1762 is a portal gate to the animal kingdom and to spirit world. Now, I put the 731 is an electromagnetic. The 4521 is a compromise channel. Katie has the whole thing. Charles gets the 21. But Charles gets the 21 on both the design side and the personality side, and we know that because it's striped. Katie gets the 4521 with Chiron activating. So knowing that, I would say to the two of them, when you want to take action, make sure that you both agree that the action you want to take aligns with both of you. And I say that because we see that Charles has the 5125 with his Chiron in 25, going from the heart center to the self center. And it then connects up with the 214. And then it's going to connect up in this electromagnetic 34, 57, 10, 20. When I am doing a multidimensional noble energy map and looking at integration in an individual, I always consider and read the 57, 34, 10, 20 as the priority channel. Why? The 3410 is marching to your own drum. The 57 is intuition. And the 20 is a manifesting action coming from the 34. So given that Charles has the 5720 and Katie has the 3410, there is a portion of what Charles is moving toward and what Katie is feeling, where there's overlapping perceptions of what's right for each of them. And in the electromagnetic component, when they come together and talk about it, with active listening in this case, they can come up with something better together than they could alone. So they have quite a few compromise channels. And this one is not compromised. This is electromagnetic. This, no, that's wrong. Yeah. This is the compromise. This one is a electromagnetic. And so we could change this. Hold on. Oh, I'm not going to be able to change it in here. So I'm just going to move it so that you get the right thing. Okay. I hope this is clear to all of you who are here. I don't see any of you, so I don't have a way to get feedback unless we put on the chat. Okay, let's move to the next. The next case I did was Marvin and me. What's interesting in Marvin and my
Eleanor,
chart.
can I
What?
interrupt you? Sorry, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
I have a question that says, is this true also if the relationship chart has a 2145 and not individually? And I think this question applies to everything.
Can you repeat it? I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Is it true also if the relationship chart has a 21 and 45 and not individually? That's the question.
Yeah. If one person has the 45-21 and the other person does not, then it would be a dominance channel. And in that case, if, let's say, the couple were in a situation and the person with the 45-21 was beginning to feel stressed, I would encourage that person to communicate that to their partner and as a unit decide if they wanted to stay in the situation or get out of the situation. If, on the other hand, they're not in an external situation, but they're relating to each other, and the person with the 45-21 has strong feelings about something, I would encourage the person who doesn't have any of that channel to listen and to hear what the partner is stressed about or excited about. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I believe it does. Yes.
Okay,
thank you.
good. Okay, in the chart between Marvin and me, it's very interesting. When all we had was the human design chart, and Rod did not use Chiron in any of his charts. He looked at my chart and Marvin's chart as a relationship chart, and he said, I don't understand how the two of you are together. You have no self center. Well, we do have a self center when we use Chiron. And Marvin having the 15 and the 5 with no solar plexus activated and no splenic center activated tells us the open centers are where people pick up energy. Marvin is a medical doctor. He picks up in his body what his patients feel. He has done this since childhood. And early on, before we had design, Marvin would come in from his office and I would look at him and I'd say, Marvin, who did you see today? This isn't you. He would be picking up in his body what patients felt. So it's interesting that he does get the self-center, and the 15-5 is showing us his capacity as a very powerful healer. He also, so he has the 15-5. I have the 5. The 5 in my chart, I was defined as a manifester. And I always wait, and I wait, and I wait until I know that I can take action. And that's the 5 operational in me. The 515 is a compromise channel for us. Why? I only have the 5, but he has the whole channel. So when it is an issue of healing, I always defer to Marvin as a medical doctor who knows what works from that standpoint. And the other compromise, now my dominance, I have the 5818. That's a dominant channel. The 5818, I always read as tuning into the frequency of a situation. I see it as my talent. I can hear when somebody is aligning to their deep self or not by their voice frequency. And it's what made me a very good clinician. I do not read the 5818 as having to do with a parent. I have not found that to hold clinically. It is understanding the frequency of a situation, and then the depth and the skills are a compromise channel for us. Generally, I defer to Marvin in terms of healing perception, and he defers to me in terms of whether or not someone is aligning with their own highest consciousness. We have on the emotional side, I don't have a defined emotional center, neither does Marvin. But we do have electromagnetic channels between the 1222 and the 3536. We generally talk about what we feel and talk about it when we see people getting emotionally reactive. I tend not to be emotional in most situations. I can count on my one hand the number of times I've gotten really angry about anything, but that can vary. And again, we do together have a defined sacral center. So there will be times when the gate 59 is activated by transit, and then it will be a time to transform anything emotional we may be dealing with internally. The skill to use for emotional reactivity would be active listening or clean language. Notice that Marvin has the storytelling channel, and it is a compromise channel for the two of us. So, based on all of this, I've developed a system that transforms relationships without activating conflicts. You can engage your customers for reports in your first contact with them, even if they're new to human design, by giving them relationship reports that help them understand not only the dynamics, but also some communication skills that may help them when they leave the report and have to deal in real life with their partner. And I've explained some of the communication, and you can go back through and study these slides and see what I've said about them. And I put some examples of how I read relationships. So let's say you have the ajna to the throat. That, in my view, says your creativity pushes you to seek answers to deep questions. In addition, you're sensitive to what other people think, and you may pick up telepathically on their thoughts. When I see someone with a crown to the ajna, to the throat, that person is a channel. They know things that they haven't been told. At times, if you have this circumstance, you may be overloaded by information. Change your focus, wait for clarity, and wait for the answers to come, and trust your process. Because your partner processes information, wait before giving your partner information until you know they're receptive. Discuss your ideas with open-ended questions, and that will allow your partner to communicate with you, get your input, and then it's always in a relationship a question of saying, how does this sit with you? Is this something that aligns? The throat to the splenic center is pretty important because the splenic center is responsible for higher octave creative intelligence and intuition. So when the throat is activated to the splenic center in one of you, or some combination, you know more than you think you know because you're intuitive and you perceive energy that not everyone perceives. When you feel inspired, trust yourself and what you know, and use your talents and insights to find ways to accomplish your goals. Someone with the defined splenic center is likely to be sensitive to what's healthy and what's not, and should honor their sense about things. Now, if this is you in a relationship with a partner who has this splenic to the throat, that partner is highly intuitive and needs time to be internal and consider what's inspiring him and setting a direction toward manifesting what he wants. So give your partner time without pressure. Then come together and discuss the possibilities. Use language that both of you share in your perspectives and your goals. So again, use the definitions, use the channels to inform each other about where you are in the relationship and in the world, and then use skills that will allow for aligning as a couple. I gave one or two examples here about type. So here's an example of a manifesting generator relating to a generator and the relationship strategy for that. One of you, and what I wrote is, one of you is a manifesting generator and the other is a generator. As a manifesting generator, you must act based on your instinctive response, and because your responses to your circumstances are complex and may be activated by your intuition, emotions, or self-direction, You must wait before acting to ensure that your considered action aligns with your core values and will be well received. You do well when you have clear goals, know what you want to manifest, and take time to envision how things will play out. You maximize successful communication and outcomes when you live with what you're considering for a few hours or for a week. The generator operates in the world by tuning in to gut responses and judging what aligns from that place within. Because a generator's instinctive gut responses are likely to be subtle, it's essential that they take all the time they need to consider what's right. I say to a generator, watch how your mind interprets your inner responses and listen to your mental chatter and wait until you know what response is correct for you from a very still and quiet internal place. When in doubt, do not respond or take action. Trust your responses and consider all aspects of a situation to ensure you're at your best. When you're constantly busy internally and feel frustrated, you cannot decide anything. So what I say for the couple is using your inner guidance as a team works well for you as a couple. Before taking any action of consequence, coordinate your perceptions and values. And when either one of you has misgivings or doubts, wait for clarity and talk through differences in perceptions. When you agree on an action, manifest what you envision. When you are in conflict, use self-reflection skills in your own space and come together again to discuss your plans. Remain patient and use only empowering language. This is important. Do not ever use disempowering language in a relationship. And if you feel anger and blame and questioning of your partner, be silent. Avoid putting pressure on each other. Trust your unique inner guidance and work collaboratively to achieve the best path forward for both of you. The manifesting generator has a good sense of timing and can guide the timing for action once you agree on the right action. Are there any questions that any of you have? Or Laura, do you want to open this up for discussion? Or I can wind this up. Okay. Some practical applications. I'm not going to read the slide about the manifestor, two manifestors. You can read that when you get the PowerPoint. So practical applications. Align with yourself and your values before you interact in your relationship. Honor your values and inner guidance to make correct relationship decisions. Work on relationship patterns that create misalignment by learning skills to communicate. And I mentioned several: mirroring, active listening, and clean communication. Those are very important because they have different practical applications. Knowing what skill to use in a relationship is key to building a good relationship. Understand the role of type in relationship dynamics. We respect each other's sensibilities and the need for time in decision making. Generally, in the work I'm doing with Noble Energy Maps, for a lot of people, waiting a week is very beneficial because the lunar design, the dream design, is based on a week. And when you wait the week, you begin to know if something is really right for you. So when in doubt, wait. Always wait when in doubt, whether it's speaking or acting or going somewhere. If you're not certain, understand that you can wait and be respected for your waiting. And if you're in a relationship and you say to your partner, I need more time, expect that your partner will respect that need. Consider the dynamics of centers. Open centers, people pick up energy. They may be contaminated by the energy. Give them time to settle into themselves. Channels, we went over the different types. We went over different types, and I assume since you're practitioners, you know about type. But remember, 5 distinct, statistically significant types, not 4. Be compassionate and understanding of each other.
Eleanor, I don't know if you have access to the Q&A, but we have some questions there.
Okay.
If not, I could read them for you.
Let's see. I see the chat, but it's a very small window. So why don't you tell me what the questions are?
Yes. First, Stephanie says, any thoughts on 2 currents connecting in a channel, specifically the 5125? This will be a compromise situation with the 25 current have a node in 51.
So it's people, both people have the full channel and one person has a node in 51. Is that
yeah, I don't know if Stephanie's there, but this would be a compromise situation with the 25 current.
It is a compromise, and the person who has the whole channel would be the one who would have a stronger point of view. And I would listen to each other and decide what action to take. When it's a compromised channel, you both need to consider what right action is.
She says both have chiron in opposite gates.
In which gate?
In opposite gates, it says. It doesn't clarify. Stefan, if you could send the whole question again in a more clear way, it would be great.
Maybe I can see it. Where?
Yeah, maybe in the chat. Maybe Stefan, if you could send the whole question again, it would be great on the chat. And then we have some people asking about, it says, I'm married to a reflector. Do you have any examples involving reflectors? And yes.
In what?
Reflectors.
I'm having trouble.
I'm sorry, maybe it's my internet. Reflectors, involving reflectors.
Reflectors.
Yes.
What about reflectors?
If you can talk about the relationships specifically between projectors and reflectors.
The reflectors have all possibilities. And remember that we're only looking at the mental waking world chart. In the Triple Design Matrix book, which I wrote with Ra in 2000 to 2002, we talked about the importance of looking at the dream design and the biological design, because the matrices may give some definition that doesn't show up in the human design. So if you are using only the human design chart and you're looking at a reflectors chart, I always read reflectors as having all possibilities. And it doesn't mean they can't act. It means they wait to know what they know when they know it. And then when it feels right for them, they can take action. So I don't use type as limiting. It is not a limitation on somebody. It is, remember, every single one of these 64 gates and channels is active in every human being when they're born. There's nothing missing. It's just that some of them are like printing in bold. It's an emphasis. So someone who's a reflector will have strong feelings in different situations. And it's up to them to know if it's aligning with them on a soul level and empowering them. And if they're empowered, then they need to communicate that and their perceptions to their partner. And the partner needs to listen really carefully to a reflector who is picking up energy from people around them, situations around them, and can be extremely wise and really good with timing because they're that sensitive. Does that answer it for you?
I think it does. We have Stephanie's question there in the chat. I don't know if you could see it.
One person
Because-
has Chiron in 25 and the North Node in 51. The other has Chiron in 51 and 25 undefined. Okay, so it's a compromise situation. And in this case, the chirons are activating the whole channel. And I would guess that the couple with the 2551 compromise channel is intuitively reacting to similar things. Now, what I would say in a case like that is they need to talk about it and get a consensus for how they feel in a situation, because they are in a spiritual relationship, and the chirons in the 51 are absolutely initiating consciousness. Now, I see the 4521 as a as I said earlier, the oxygen being transmitted through the body. We breathe in and it goes, and then the 5125, it gets distributed. So I always read the 5125 as a channel of creativity and Rasad as a mystical channel. So if it's a compromise, but both people have Chiron in 51, then they can be in sync and coordinate when they want and how they want to manifest who they are or where they are. Stephanie, does that answer it for you?
Here I have someone ask. Yes, Stephanie says yes. Thank you. Could you recommend again your books, the ones that go into relationship readings, please?
Well, all of my books talk about my own system, which is an expansion of human design. And I have a rather large book called Beyond Human Design, which goes into every channel in all of its layers and how to navigate with action points and ways of empowering. So all of my books are on Amazon. You can just search my name and take a look at them. They're also, I think, on Apple at this point. So, and the Triple Design Matrix book, which I did with Ra, the Triple Design Matrix book is rather interesting because I talked about the sleep architecture and what I understood of the multi-design matrices. The statistics did show that when we worked with the dream design that Rob talked about, and the sleep design, well, actually, we talked about a meditation design and a sleep and a dream design. It held up as statistically significant. So working with those matrices begins to show you how when you sleep or when in your biological matrix, you may have connections that you don't see in your human design, and those inform relationships as well. So, and I do have a book coming out that I wrote with Ra. Again, this one is on human design and health. And it's again 3 books in one. And my husband and I both did commentaries on what held up scientifically. All of
Amazing.
my books talk about dynamics and communication. In some of my webinars, I do post clean questions or active listening or other skills. But I gave you a taste of it in this webinar. Any other questions?
No, some people are asking what's your type and profile. I'm curious too.
I don't use profile. Profile
Okay.
happens to be one of the things that I scientifically proved was not accurate. So instead of using profile, I use the keywords from the incarnation crosses. And I find them to be much more valuable than a number. So I am in my human design chart. You can see my chart over here. I am a single definition manifester. In my dream design, I do get the sacral center, and I believe I was a 3-5, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't use it at all.
Okay, no, I think we don't have any more questions.
Okay, thank you all for being here, and I believe this PowerPoint will be available to all of you. There's links to the free Noble Energy Map, as well as a premium report, and also the link to the Body Graph portal.
Amazing.
So thank you all for being here. I appreciate that you've all been here, and this PowerPoint will be available for all of you.
This was so valuable. Thank you, Eleanor. Very, very interesting.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
My
being
pleasure.
here and everyone.